and then just tell us about the ministry.
Yeah, go. You started, so go ahead. Keep rolling.
Well, we can introduce ourselves first.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Ladies first.
Well, I'm Stephanie Answer, and this is my husband Daryl. We live in Kansas City, Missouri, and we have two kids. Our daughter Jaden is 6.5, and our son Kian is 4.5.
Mhm.
Um, and really, our ministry, we always say our story started longer ago. So, back in 2013, we moved into a neighborhood on the east side of Kansas City, and we just kind of joined what was already happening. So, Daryl can share a little bit background of kind of what brought us to that point. But when we moved into our neighborhood, we joined the neighborhood association. We visited different churches. We got connected with some teen things going on, and just wanted to learn kind of what's going on here. How can we plug in? How can we support? And so as we did that for a couple years, we started to get to know some neighbors, and also started to kind of see where the gaps were. And while we were meeting some great people in the neighborhood, a lot of us were like, there's no place where we can go to actually get to know our neighbors. There's not, coffee shops or, places to just go
Yeah.
and meet, or restaurants or things to sit down. And so we just started talking with a few neighbors. Are like, well, let's start gathering people, just get to know each other. So we started in a park, and we just took a grill out and sat out all day long. And waited, invited folks to come through. And then those eventually turned into monthly potluck dinners with neighbors. And we would rotate to different people's homes. And we really started to see this community of people gather together that were also looking to connect with others. And so we did that. And then at the same time, another friend of mine, she and I and a couple nonprofits in Kansas City, Started Zero and the YMCA, we all together started a play group for families, to just have a safe space and a fun place for families to show up. And so then, kind of as a result of that community work through the play groups or the dinners, we saw the need. We're just like, let's invite some people into discipleship and see what that looks like. And so we started in our home with one neighbor and her two kids, back in 2016. And that's when we say New Community Church began around our dining room table, with one of our neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think going back a little bit, I think the seed, when I tell the story, I think the seed of New Community Church was with a group of teenagers. This was 2010. I just moved to Kansas City. And so this was a lot of all the boys I was with, they were all gang affiliated, but they all believed in Jesus. And which usually that's not a story that's told. Usually people get hung up on the gang affiliation. They don't talk about, yeah, but these kids grew up hearing about Jesus, many of them. So we had got done teaching a series of lessons on the life of Christ in this youth group. And I was with the boys, Stephanie was with the girls, we'd split up. And I was like, man, where are we at with all of this? Because we're about a couple months in, it's growing, you all are bringing friends. And BJ, one of the young men, he was like, man, we believe in Jesus. And I would always talk about following Jesus. And he was like, man, we also believe Jesus came back today, he'd be in the hood with us. But we can't follow him and live in this neighborhood. I was like, man, what? So because the ministry we were a part of at the time was one that would bring in white or suburban ministries to come do. They would do outreach in the summers. Every Friday night, we were in different projects in the community, and it was a white ministry that would come and bring meals. And so all they saw was Christian folks would drive in, and then once it got dark, they leave. Typical suburban partnerships, right? So that really was Stephanie and I's. That was the seed where it's like Stephanie and I, and we weren't even married yet. We were just dating and talking. And it was like, what would it look like for us to live in a neighborhood, follow Jesus, get to know our neighbors, join what's already going on, and just see what the Spirit does. So that So yeah, like Stephanie said, around our little dining room table, 2016, we had communion. I read a few verses, and that was the beginning of New Community
Wow.
Church. And then it grew from that. I remember the Sunday when we knew we had to get out of our living room. It was the same year Philando Castillo Alton Sterling's death.
Mm.
And we had folks in our living room just lamenting. And our house, we were in a small, it was like a 900 square foot house. Kian was on the way. Stephanie was pregnant with Kian. And I remember Stephanie just being like, you all need to get out of my house. We had this baby.
Let's have a baby.
We had like 20 tiny living room. So we were able to move to the Hope Center, which is a partner of a CCDA organization. So we met there for 4 years. But our church, just to give a little bit, our mission, we talk about our mission is build community, make disciples, and be the church. Like that's what we're all about. We're all about that. So even back to the play groups, the meals. We even did these East Side showcases where we highlight entrepreneurs in our community. We had like 100 neighbors come out to celebrate the gifts of our community because we wanted to shine a light on the positive.
Mm-hmm.
So much. I mean, it's like there's all the news when they show up, they want to talk about the negative, but it's like there's so much good here. There's so much good. So yeah, build community, make disciples, be the church, and then within that, we talk about our doing and our being. So who we want to be is a community of grace, healing, and liberation. So we're just trying to we're trying to incubate healing, we're trying to incubate innovation, we're trying to incubate those things where all people are welcome. We're starting to see like folks come in with significant brokenness, but find
a lot of church hurt
a
and
ton
like
of church hurt.
just
Yeah.
not being able to be their full selves in the church, and so creating a space where people can be fully them.
Yeah. So we even recently did what's happened to us. So yeah, so that's kind of who we are as a church, deeply embedded in our neighborhood. So we're now in this phase of, I mean, for the first few years, it was just Stephanie and I. And then 2016, it was that in our living room. 2000, so at the end of that year, we moved to the Hope Center, had Kian, but 2018, he was diagnosed with autism, but we found out he has a chromosome disorder. So it's autism, kidney disease first. That's what we found out first. Chronic kidney disease, then autism, and then all the other like global delays. So even though he's 4.5, developmentally, he's still like 9 months to a 1-year-old. So that happened, and our daughter was diagnosed with selective mutism. She just stopped talking like for a whole year. It was like nothing. And then after that, 2019, I got diagnosed with a panic disorder. Like my body just shut down. So that's when we were like, okay, is the church going to continue?
Well, and prior to that, at the end of 2017 was when we got connected with the ECC, with the covenant. So we were, going as a church, and we had connected with World Impact and then the covenant. So end of 2017, beginning of 2018, we kind of came on as a church plant of the covenant.
We are a big family. Big family. Yeah, we just love it because from the play groups and the things in the neighborhood, it's the same families, so our kids are growing up together, experiencing church in this different way,
That's good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's and because I think a lot about a lot of churches in the US are more commuter churches, so people come in and go back out. The pastor doesn't even live in the community. But what it sounds like when you say that, you all really are living, like growing up together, the kids are, that I think is the testimony that people need to see when we're talking about diversity and, people from different backgrounds. I mean, you can get people from different backgrounds to drive into a church hang out for 2 hours and then go back to wherever they live. But the bigger challenge is
doing
that
life.
whole, that doing life together. Like I see you on the block, if we have a disagreement, oh, but are you still coming to the potluck? We're gonna have to work it out at some point because I see you not just on Sundays. And that, yeah, that's the hard work right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because one family that's connected to us, the husband, he said the reason why I'm a part of this church is because I know I'll see you all in the week. Like this
Mhm.
isn't just a Sunday morning thing. Like I know we're all trying to build our community up.
Yeah.
He does organizing work, and so it's just, yeah, absolutely. That really has kind of been a part of our DNA.
And it's been, early on we wrestled like with the CCD principles because we're like we want to be focused on proximity. Like our neighborhood and this place like is important and it matters to how we do and be church. But also we're like, is it everyone welcome, or like do we need to be focused here, and so we wrestled through that because I think at first we're like, no, if you don't live here, like stay away. But like we've had to wrestle through like, no, like that's not right either.
Yeah.
But we're gonna center, like, but we're not gonna not say place matters. So it's like we unapologetically say like, no, like this is our focus, this neighborhood, like this community, God cares about it, we care about it. Most of us live here. You don't have to live here, but you have to value this place.
Yeah.
And helping people who, and we have people who don't live, I mean, majority of our folks do live like on the east side of Kansas City, but we have a good number of folks who don't. But it's kind of like they're committing, like by becoming a part of the church, they're also like, no, I care about this place too. And so we encourage them, like, if you don't live here, like find ways to be here and shop here, spend your money here, and connect with folks here. And so that's been a tension that like
That's good.
live with, like we're living into and figuring out. But it's like,
What was it about Kansas City that led you to do ministry there versus some other city or town? But it sounds like what I'm hearing, you all just both, you were in Kansas City and it was really just as you were trying to get to know your community that these things sort of grew out of that. Is that the case?
I'm from Blue Springs, so I'm from a suburb of Kansas City. So I grew up just east of the city. And so I got connected in urban ministry back in like 2001. And so I was with a youth organization for about 5 years and then transitioned to a different youth organization, but all in the city. And so I didn't want to stay in Kansas City. Like when I was done with college, that was not the plan. I was like wanted to move to Atlanta or Oakland, even though I had never been to places. I was like, I want to go there. But just eventually over time felt like, no, like I need to put roots down here because it was preventing me from putting roots down because I kept like wanting to. But I think once I had gotten connected in the city, like that's where I wanted to stay and just really felt like this is where I feel like God's called me. This is where I feel like I become more myself. So I think on my own journey, like I learned how to follow Jesus and be my full self at the same time, and just the Black church. I was able to be a part of a couple different Black churches, which was, totally different than my upbringing, but had some Black women who like mentored me and discipled me and like really like helped me to grow in my faith. And so, so Kansas City for me is just where I've always been. Daryl is not from here.
I'm coming from London and growing up in a Jamaican family. Kansas City isn't very diverse. So like even getting here, I was like, dang, I don't know if I want to be here. And then going to immersion, being in Chicago.
We almost moved to Chicago after immersion. to Chicago,
I
live in
like,
Inglewood.
Chicago's where it's at. Because it felt so Chicago, New York, like it just has a big city feel, and I just miss that.
Mhm.
So even coming to Kansas City, I came here originally for a 1 year permission to work with my visa,
Visa.
my student visa,
Mhm.
and then ended up staying. It's weird. It's like I feel called here. There's work here,
Mhm.
but and it has become home now. I've been here, what, 11, 12, I've been here a while. So, kids, married, it's like,
To be home.
so it's home, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, man, I still want to be around my people. There's actually a Jamaican festival happening this weekend. So I'm going to be there with Ian or the oxtails. But, so yeah, like Kansas City for me has become home. But yeah, like I feel called to this place.
Mhm.
So not the suburb. Like I didn't know what suburb was until I came to America. I had no idea. I don't know what that is. So I've always been a city kid. But yeah, Kansas City is home.
I think for us too, like because we did go through immersion, like right before we got married, like we're thinking what life is going to be like, and I mean we heard loud and clear at CCDA like 15 years, like
Yeah.
and so I think like from the beginning we've been in it for the long haul. So like when we're like this is where it's gonna be, then it's like we're committed and like we do feel like God has us here and God's doing work, in us, in our community. But I think partly because of CCDA, like we're like, yeah, this is slow, faithful, like
Yeah.
so that's kind of how we approached everything, like moving in, like we're like, yeah, we don't need to rush, like because we're here until God tells us something different.
Yeah.
So.
Talk to me about what has it been like um over this past what year, what are we, 14 months or something like that? How has it been doing ministry in the midst of a pandemic, um, with children at home, and even just kind of thinking about the needs of your kids? Like how has all of that kind of come together, and what has it been like?
No, with our kid, we've been privileged enough. So our son Kian goes to an autism clinic. So was he home a month? Maybe?
He was on. They only closed down like a month or two. Out of the whole thing
because they're considered essential.
Uh-huh.
So we were privileged enough that Kian was only home a month. I actually don't even remember what that month was like. It was probably crazy.
I think we just stopped everything.
Yeah,
like when he was gonna be home, we're like, okay, nothing's gonna get done for 2 months.
Yeah, because when he's home, he just breaks. Like the house is just getting destroyed. So, we just our living room looks like an ABA clinic right now. So everything shut down in our family when he was home. But he was able to go back to his clinic, and they followed all of those COVID, safety policies. And anyone, if COVID did come in,
they would have a week off here and there but it was never like he was able to continue more than and even for our daughter, we were lucky with her too. She goes to a charter school, but it's a smaller school, so they only have like 2 classes per grade, and they let families choose, like the younger kids, kindergarten through 4th, I think. They let families choose if they wanted to be in person or virtual.
Okay.
And so because she had anxiety and she's had like we were like, no, she needs to be in person. And felt like they were able to do that safe. So she actually started kindergarten and was able to be most, like I think with the exception of like a month, a month or so, she was in person.
Okay.
Too. And so for our kids, I'm thankful like that they have, because they both had their specific needs, and I feel like they were able to still be supported, which is not the case for so many families.
Yeah.
So it freed us up to then be able to care for others. So church-wise, I mean, we're pretty lean financially, real lean budget. We don't have a building, so we immediately shifted to online Facebook. But then other ways of points of connection was we started what we call prayer and fellowship on Zoom. So you Sunday morning, people come on, time of process. I mean, 2020 was just rough.
Yeah.
With, so there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot. So that hour before we jumped on Facebook was like a decompression.
But
know,
that seems such like a sacred
It did.
space in 2020 though, like
did.
that I mean, when we were in person, we didn't have that, and
Mhm.
we probably wouldn't have had the conversations that we had had we not been able to just like create that intentional space, and everyone knew we need each other right now, and we need to have a space to like share. And so like
So
that was really turned into a gift of the time.
I did. So prayer and fellowship. Then ladies' nights. Like these
Man.
ladies,
We
they're out till 2-3 in the morning. Someone's
we
backyard
would
in the
be in the
neighborhood.
backyard, like social distance,
Man.
but like
2-3 in the morning. Stephanie be coming home 3 in the morning.
I was like, I'm too old for
Who
this.
do you think you are?
But
Who
we're
do you think
like,
you are?
you
What's
just
going on?
need, like, we just saw how we needed each other. Like, you need people.
Yeah, guys, we'd have guys' nights.
They were
we
not.
were not out till I think midnight.
They
was
were
latest.
lame.
At midnight, and we'd be like, we gotta beat the women. We're like, no, we can't do it. We can't hang. We're too tired. So yeah, we'd be out midnight, and it's just backyards, front porches in the neighborhood. Just talking life and just like checking in with each other. We did that. We dedicated 14 of our kids in a park. So we also just did things. So we just we really try and utilize the asset-based philosophy. So it's like, what do we have? So we have parks, we have front porches, backyards, and then we have internet.
And we also, like, at the beginning of the pandemic, that we weren't doing all of the things, like we were all quarantined. But what we did do was make a team of, we called them connectors. So we divided up, we gave each connector like 4 people, and just said, hey, these are your people, check in with them each week. And so especially early on, we made sure everybody was getting a check-in and like coordinated if there were needs that came up, coordinated. The cool thing was, because there were some folks that lost their jobs, but we have a lady in our church who she does catering, like out of her house. Like, she's just an amazing cook. It's like her side business, but she lost her main job and wasn't able to get work. So what we did as the church was we paid her to cook meals for families who needed food. So like we tried to be creative to like pay people that needed pay, but also paid them to meet a need for someone else. So like we did these dinners, for people. She would drop off food. So like
we all ate good in the pandemic.
Man, that's why I put on like 50 pounds.
We
but I have said, like, it's been interesting because I've been on, like, even in our network, like Covenant network calls, like, other pastors are like checking in, but I feel like being a church plant, like, you're used to being flexible and like, okay, we're gonna try this, and so I feel like that was a gift for us. Like, we weren't so stuck. Like, we constantly, switch it up or like try something different. But also, it was such a gift for us because we talk about like we be the church, like we are the church, and really COVID put that to the test. And so it gave us this opportunity for our people to actually see how you do that. And so it was hard, but also like see something that happened in our church, like people realize, like, no, like we're the church, and like the church, all these people are having conversations about the church is closed, like, no, we didn't skip a beat, because like we were able to like be the church, like be community for each other.
And I think one of the gifts that allowed you to do that was because you were in the community together. So like I hear you when you're talking about like gathering in backyards or porches of other church members, it's because you all live in the same community and could do that.
We can make it work.
We baptized people in a parking lot last summer.
Wow.
I borrowed a horse trough. So even in the midst of the pandemic,
we added families.
There's
families that have never worshipped in person with us. Like
Yeah.
all they know is
Online.
online.
So we'll see if they stick around.
I know, we're
that's
like,
the
man, we're better online.
Yeah, we really are.
It's still a little raggedy.
It's a little rough in person.
But we also had those other like rhythms. Like we've been doing monthly prayer walks, like in the spring and summer and fall, like since we started. So as soon as it was safe to gather outdoors, like we went back to that rhythm. So like we've had.
What do you want people to know about Kansas City, and why should they come to this year's CCDA conference?
Because we've been planning this conference for the last 3 years.
right.
You better come.
Yep.
No, I was just kidding.
Yeah. So Kansas City is an innovative city. I would say that. I would say Kansas City is continuing to strive to deal with its history, its past. So I would say that work is happening. And I think it's because of some organizations that are just tired. It's like, all right, we need to like clean house. So I think Kansas City is, like many cities, trying to do right. Many cities are trying to do right. There's an awakening. There's a racial awakening right now. There's a move of justice. And I think because of the pandemic, it's almost like we have a fresh start. It's like, okay, let's not make the idols of the past continue to be the idols of the future. So reimagine. Actually, that's where I was going. I'm a preacher. I was gonna go there. So yeah, I would say like, yeah, as a city, there is this spirit of reimagining going on right now. So I would say I would strongly invite folks not to come to just watch a city reimagine, but help us reimagine. Help us. I really believe in mutually beneficial partnerships. I don't believe in one-sided. So folks who are coming to Kansas City, come to Kansas City to see what the Lord is doing, but then also bring your gifts because we need them. Your wisdom, your stories, we need them too. So I believe we'll be able to help reimagine because other folks from around the country are going to join us for the conference.
I don't know.
You want to add to that?
I mean, I just think CCDA, what it's always been for us is like a reunion of seeing friends.
Yeah.
And it's always been like exciting and a point we look to like connect with people. And I think especially coming off the pandemic where we haven't had those opportunities, we've all been on screens for so long. Like, I think it's just going to be good to be able to still be safe. Like, that's what, we're trying to think through as a team. Like, how do we still make sure we're safe? But to regather in person and see folks that we haven't been able to see, hear stories, hear the creativity that's happened from the pandemic. Like, I think, like Daryl said, like people have been having to be creative. And so it will be cool to just learn from each other, like what's happened over this last season. What are we taking with us? What are we, doing? And so I think I look forward to that too.
Now, this last question, this is important. What are your top 1 or 2 places to get barbecue in Kansas City?
1 or 2?
Ooh.
Okay. Well, what you got? You want to do 5, 3, 5?
We're serious about the barbecue.
Yeah.
And our tacos, okay? Because we got lots of good tacos.
Yeah, good tacos. I would say some places you have to help while you're in Kansas City. Gates is like, everyone knows Gates, so you gotta go to Gates. I would say LC's barbecue. That's some good barbecue right there. Q39, a little higher end. Also, Jack Stacks, that's a little higher end as well. There's also Kansas City Joe's. That's some good barbecues. That's 5. Okay, 5.
You sound like you could go on though.
Slaps. Yeah, that's in KCK. So we got Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. So two cities.
Mm-hmm.
Two
Yeah,
states.
So that's 6 options right there. good barbecue. Arthur Bryant's. I missed Arthur Bryant. So yeah,
that's good.
Barack Obama went to Arthur Bryant's.
Ain't gotta go there.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the options for sure.
Okay, great. Well, that's all I have. I just want to say thank you. And as long as I've known you all, I've never really gotten to hear. I've never heard this, like the history of the ministry, and even just some of your stories. So, I just personally enjoyed.
Thank you.